Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to Talent Culture's T-Chat Radio. The world of work is live now on the radio with Megan M. Biro and Kevin W. Grossman, because middle initials count.
Come down, turn the radio on. Take my hand, turn the radio on. Come on, my favorite song, baby. Let's dance, turn the radio on.
Welcome, everybody out there in Talent Culture T-Chat Show land. It is Wednesday, June 17th. It is 1 p.m. Eastern on the East Coast, where I am at with my family. This is Kevin W. Grossman, the co-founder and co-host of the Talent Culture T-Chat Show. And if you're on the West Coast, where I usually am, it's 10 a.m. Pacific time. And my lovely and talented co-host and co-founder, Megan M. Biro, will be on the Twitters with us. But she is actually in London at an IBM event and unfortunately doesn't have phone access for the radio show, but that's okay because I'm here with our guest. I'm going to introduce in just a second, and welcome everybody out there. I'll tell you, we've done the show for some interesting places around the world and in the States, and one thing I can tell you is that doing it from the comfort of a hotel room on vacation is much better than trying to do it on the street next to a baseball game before your daughter plays. So trust me on that one. Everybody remembers that show. Anyway, so again, Kevin W. Grossman with you here today. If you're listening live, make sure to tweet along, and then in 30 minutes or less than 30 minutes, we'll do the Twitter chat portion of today's show. This is actually also the last live show that we're going to do before SHRM, which is July 1st, the big live SHRM show that we're going to do with three great guests, HR pros at SHRM. But this is another great recruiting thing today, actually, and today's topic is all about how employee engagement empowers the employer brand. We want to thank all of our friends and sponsors first, Dice, Jive, Recruitify, TalentWise, Hootsuite, IBM Career Builder, of course, PeopleFluent, Silk Road, and our social analytics partner, HR Marketer Insight, as well as our ongoing shout-out to the Candidate Experience Awards as well. In fact, in my article this week on Talent Culture is also about the recruiting, candidate experience, and references a great webinar that we did recently with Smashfly and Jerry Crispin of the Talent Board. So that's a little bit of the intro, and then I'll introduce our guests. So today, last week we talked about the art of the candidate engagement. That was a great Dice show that we did last week. Stacey was one of three guests that we had last week, and this week she's our standalone guest, and we're going to talk about how employee engagement empowers the employer brand. With more of a recruitment theme, and how you can get your internal current employees to be great evangelists on the recruiting front for new employees that you want to try to get to join. And there's a lot of companies today spend a lot of money for sought-after skill sets, and if your employer brand has hit the skids, it's not going to go very far. The money doesn't. So what you really want to focus on is getting your current employees to be jazzed about your organization, to step up that branding game with stories told by your own employees on their own accord that evangelize your company culture in a very authentic, transparent way. That's what we're going to talk about today. Lots of great questions. Let me introduce our guest, Stacey Donovan Zapar. And Stacey Donovan Zapar is an 18-year recruiting veteran for Fortune 500 tech companies and founder of Tenfold, a boutique recruiting consultancy and training firm. She's an advisory board member for multiple HR tech companies and works with top brand clients such as TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Zappos, and Restoration Hardware, leading their social recruiting, employer branding, and sourcing initiatives. Stacey, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Kevin. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's usually sometimes when we do the show and I'm the one that actually is unavailable for whatever reason, events, traveling, and this time it's Megan's not on, but that's all right. We're gonna shore it up for her and carry the torch. So, Stacey, before we dive into some of the meatier questions, why don't you tell us a little bit more? I give you a little bit of a background about you, but tell us again, a little bit more about your recruiting background and what's led us to talk about this topic today.
Yeah, I've been recruiting for a nice long time, 18 whole years. I'm kind of showing my age a little bit by giving that number out as you also shared. But long-time recruiter, long-time sportser, tech, agency background, in-house corporate, executive, international, all things recruiting. Love recruiting. It's in my blood. The second I started doing it, I fell in love with it, and kind of the rest is history. A couple of years ago now, I started my own company. First off, on the training side, training teams how to do sourcing and social recruiting and those sorts of things. And a little over a year ago, got into more of the employer brand side with the role at Zappos that many people have now heard about. And I won't go into too much detail today, but yeah, kind of got into the employer brand side a little over a year ago, and also still kind of keep my hands dirty a little bit in the sourcing stuff and social recruiting, and it's been a ton of fun. I love it. Everyone's heard me say this a million times, but if I won the lottery tomorrow, I absolutely would still do this job every day. I love it. It's the greatest thing. Never boring, constant change and constant learning, and fun to go out there and try new things and see what works. So it's a great gig I've got.
I know, that's awesome. In fact, and I agree with you. I would still be in this industry too. Talking about HR, recruiting. No, seriously, writing, doing the show, working in the industry, and I love the space, love it. So, but real quick, how long ago was it when I remember your shooting star began at the social HR camp? Remember that one we did together in San?
I do.
Smart Recruiters. Was that 3 years ago now? 4 years ago?
It was, I think that was like December timeframe, 2012, I think. It's been almost like it's been 2.5 years basically since my company launched, and it was right around the time of that conference, that little conference in the Smart Recruiters office in San Francisco 2.5 years ago.
It was, and what I remember, you were very nervous, but man, you couldn't have you wouldn't have known it when you were actually presenting that. So I remember you did a great job then, and you were just definitely on the right track at that point. So let's talk a little bit about this first. We did reference this a little bit this last week, but I want to pick it up again because it's something that I also wrote about in my latest article this week. It's just the whole idea about and this goes hand in hand with marketing as well, right? This continued spray and pray approach to attracting talent or getting leads, in the marketing realm. Why do we continue to do this? Even with everything that we have today at our disposal, why do we do this in recruiting still?
I think you're right. A lot of recruiters are still doing this whole spray and pray or post and pray. We're blasting candidates indiscriminately and hoping that somebody will respond back, or we're posting a job, we're crossing our fingers and hoping that people reply. I don't know. I think it's probably a combination of factors. Of course, bandwidth is always an issue. As recruiters, we've got 18 million things to do. We've got a bazillion recs. We've got a bunch of hiring managers. We're tracking everything. We're keeping candidates in the loop. We have to juggle a lot of balls all the time. And so as a result, that's kind of the first thing that you do. And sometimes due to bandwidth issues, I think people kind of get limited as to how much they can get done in a day. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, recruitment process efficiency. It comes down to making sure that we're using our time wisely, making sure that there's education that's happening, right? Training is, of course, important. I wouldn't be in the business that I'm in if I didn't believe that continued education is important. Learning the latest tools and technologies, getting familiar with those, getting ourselves empowered to do more with the technology that's out there, not going kind of the lazy track. The technology is fabulous because it's really enabled us to be really targeted and to source and to brand ourselves and to do amazing things. But at the same time, that technology, I think, has a little bit enabled us to sort of check out sometimes and assume that the technology is working for us. So it's a matter of having resources, but also using them to step up our game and really keep pushing ourselves to evolve as recruiters and use these technologies in really efficient, smart ways to really reach that talent that we want to reach and engage with. So
I'm sure that listen. We always talk about what companies aren't doing right, but there are a lot of talent acquisition teams that are actually doing a very good job. Whether they're people that you work with or not, it doesn't really matter. We see it out there. Just the Candidate Experience Award winners alone and a lot of what they're doing from the front end of just posting the job employment brand all the way through interviewing and hiring and onboarding, they're raising the bar, right? So it is happening. It is changing. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for a long time, candidate experience was sort of the redheaded stepchild of the recruiting industry, and it's always been a personal passion of mine. I have a candidate who applies to every job, whether they got an interview or not. I gave that closure, and that focus on candidate experience has been kind of part of my recruiting style and practice and behaviors since the very, very beginning. But that hasn't always been the case. But I'm happy to say, and I agree with you, through the Candidate Experience Awards and all the conferences and a lot of this emphasis has kind of focused on that. And people realize that you can't have a strong employer brand without having positive candidate experience. Those two things go definitely hand in hand. And I'm really glad to see that this has definitely come up to the forefront in recent years.
Don't you think? No, I'm glad. Completely agree as well. But in regards to that, I love what you said. You said you always close out every single candidate that's been in any part of the pipeline of jobs that you've been shepherding, right? So, and now that can be a scaling issue if you're managing dozens of recs at any given time. But that's where you also want to leverage technology as well, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of bulk messaging in general, spam blasting people and, generic emails. But, through pretty much any ATS out there, you do have the capability at least to respond to the people that applied and never heard anything back, to close them out before you close out the rec. And I'll be honest, the reason that my LinkedIn network is the size that it is today is because every single time I closed out every single rec over the years, I would send a bulk message, a bulk message, which I normally am not a fan of, but, it's better than no feedback at all. And I would just say, hey, thanks so much for applying. At this point, we've decided to promote someone from within or hire an employer referral, but definitely would love to stay in touch with you down the road. Here's a link to my LinkedIn. Let's connect. If I can help you find a job here at my company, or if there's a job at another company that you're interested in, I'm happy to help you network to meet the hiring manager or recruiter there. By the way, here's a link to my blog with a lot of job search and networking tips. Take a look. Let's stay in touch. And it's amazing how that really affects people in a really positive way. And it's simple. It takes 2 seconds. You offer to help them. You give them a little feedback. You give them a kind of a connection, a way to stay in touch going forward. Those teeny little touches really go far. And to this day, people come up to me all the time at networking events or conferences and like, hey, Stacey, you don't remember me, but, in 2008, I applied for a job at your company, and I didn't get the job, but you let me know, and then you helped me with my LinkedIn profile later, and all these. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I don't remember them at all, but I'm really happy that they remember me and that I was able to help them or give them, at least a little bit of a positive experience through the job search process, which is often not a very fun process to go through, let's face it.
No, it's not. It's no, it's absolutely not.
I love how this has turned into a candidate experience discussion and not just about employer brand. Because I'm like, we're gonna talk about them. No, I love it. It's good.
We're gonna shift back. Yeah, we're gonna shift a little bit, but
for sure.
I wanted to go down that rabbit hole a little bit because I thought it was still valuable.
I agree.
So speaking,
and they go hand in hand, like we said.
Oh, absolutely. So speaking of that, let's talk then about evangelizing from the inside out. Let's segue a little bit to the employee engagement. So we know that it's inextricably linked to empowering employer brand, but why is that though? Let's for those listening out there in the community right now. Why do those things go hand in hand? Engagement linked to empowering the employer brand.
I think that Tony Hsieh, not to go immediately to the Zappos rep, but he had a great quote, and a lot of people quote him, and he said many times, your culture is your brand, and your culture is ultimately your people and what they value and what your company values, and all of those things kind of come together to be your brand as a company and as an employer brand as well. And so, it's kind of like this chicken and the egg sort of scenario. Which comes first? Do you have really engaged employees, therefore you have a strong employer brand? Or do you have, this really strong employer brand and that gets your employees engaged and they kind of go hand in hand as well. So for me, why is employee engagement so closely tied? Because your employees and their experience and their culture and the stories that they tell and the ways that they are demonstrating their engagement and how much they're engaged at work and in their job, ultimately becomes your messaging for your employer brand, right? So a strong employer brand isn't we're the best company to work for, period. That's not what your brand is. Your brand is here's who we are. This is what our people are all about. This is what we value as a company. Here's how we're different than the next company. And those differences and those personal things about your employees and about your company are your employer brand. So getting those stories out there, getting those employees to share why they're so engaged and how they're so engaged are ultimately what lead to a strong employer brand. So absolutely, you can't have one without the other.
No, you can, and another way that I like to put it is that it's kind of the building block scenario, because the first thing that we're loyal to, and we meaning the workforce, whether that's permanent, contingent, contract, part-time, you name it, whatever, we're loyal to the work that we love to do first, for the things that we love to do. Then we're loyal to those that we do it with in and around or for, and then we do it for the employer brand. And I feel that it's in that order in particular. So if those two things, it's not really like a Maslow's hierarchy, but if you think about that, if those things are fulfilled, if I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, that's a big part of engagement, right? And that's going to help drive outward. Because at any given time, again, I hate to touch back on the candidate experience, but we're all perpetual candidates at any given time, and we can flip at any given time. That's the way it works. And so if we're feeling like we're satiated in the realm of this is what I like to do, and I feel like I've got something going on here with some kind of career path future, then that's hugely important. Let's talk a little bit about again, because I know was trying to keep it positive up front, but let's talk about some of the mistakes a little bit. Again, just based on your experience and what you've seen, what are some mistakes that companies are making about their employer brand?
I think a common mistake is number one, if we're going really kind of baseline, big mistake, a lot of companies I hear and a lot of recruiters I hear, they say, we're on Twitter. We post all of our jobs on Twitter. We do social recruiting. We're out there and we're pushing out our brand. I'm like, well, job postings on Twitter are not employer branding. Like, that's obvious, and I think everyone on this call would agree with that. But let's take it one step further and really the people that are out there and they're branding. One of the more common mistakes that I see is that people tend to sugarcoat, and they're like, oh, it's always great, and it's always sunshine and roses and rainbows and unicorns, right? And they only are pushing out the positive, and, oh, it's so fun, and we have beer and we have foosball, and great. One of the common mistakes is sugarcoating and making everything look rosy all the time. I think, and a lot of people I'm sure listening to this call will agree with me, it's much better to just be real, be transparent, explain exactly what it's like to work there. These are the things we value. Yeah, sometimes we work late. Yeah, or sometimes, things get a little chaotic and it's not really structured, or whatever your culture is. I think it's more important rather than sugarcoating. Well, I guess I may be getting ahead of myself here, but rather than sugarcoating and overstating the positive and making it all about the fun, it's better to just tell the real story of what the people are really like and what's the culture really like. And this is the actual work that we're doing. You want to peel back that curtain and let potential employees know what this company and the culture and the values and the employees and everything is really like. And that way, if it does, in fact, resonate with them personally based on what the actuality is, then they're going to be more attracted to that. And perhaps there may be some self-selection that happens as a result of that as well. The Zappos culture, again, was very chaotic. It was very loud in the office, and there's music, and there's ball pits, and there's parades, and there's, horns. And, if you can't work in an environment where it's a little bit chaotic like that, then you're not going to necessarily be attracted to that culture or be successful there. So there's automatically going to be a little self-selection. Other companies might be more buttoned up, much more structure, a little bit more red tape. Things happen much more kind of methodically or intentionally or what have you, and so perhaps that's more appealing to other people. And so really, rather than just sugarcoating, it's better to tell the real story of what it's really like, and then you're attracting those people that are going to be ultimately more successful. They onboard more easily, they hit the ground running, they have higher greater performance, higher retention rate, less turnover, all those things. So definitely don't sugarcoat and overstate the positive. Be real and be authentic, and ultimately that's the better way to go.
Yeah, Absolutely, because you know why? Because it's happening already anyway. Whether you want to try to control the message or not, they are being real and authentic online in both good and bad ways. Because we can, right? We go to Glassdoor. Vault was doing that even years before Glassdoor was launched. And I mean, you could go on, you can read about companies, you can read individuals' blogs, you go on LinkedIn. I mean, there's so many different facets online now where people are sharing their experiences. It is there's that equalization that has transpired, and it is real online. So, I think the sugarcoating only backfires for employers these days because, Anyway, so you hit it right on the head there, but I think it's already out there. So be as real as you can, and I think that's really important because they're going to find out either way. And if you parachute them into the jungle in week one with something that's completely sugar-coated, you're going to have a really hard time keeping them in the first 6 to 12 months, if that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a long time recruiters have been kind of guilty of sugar-coating sometimes, or pulling,
they're trying to close.
accused of bait and switch. Oh, you told me it was going to be a great team, and now I'm this micromanager. What is happening? All these fun things. But, at the end of the day, you don't want to say negative things about your company, but you don't want to, bait and switch either. You don't want to sugarcoat anything. It just occurred to me, one of the things that I think companies are doing that is, wishy-washy, watered-down content when it comes to actual content level employer brand discussions here is that they are kind of stating and sharing information about their company that is very common across the board. We have medical, dental, vision, and matching 401k. And I'm like, guess what? So does everybody else. This is not interesting, engaging content. This is nothing that, my friend Sarah Evans says it best. She's like, when you're pushing out employer brand content, you want content that's going to make people want to share, care, or swear. And there's nothing about your walkathon or the matching 401k that is going to make anyone really sit up and take notice. These are all commonalities. Really what you want to do is be highlighting the differentiators. Like, this is how we're different from the next company. This is a unique perk or benefit. This is something that we do that's different work-wise and product-wise than our competitor. And so talking about those things that are true differentiators, that's what's really great employer brand content, as opposed to, this low-lying fruit. Oh, let's talk about our benefits. These things are not necessarily super engaging.
No.
So I think that's another common mistake that I'm seeing. And people are just doing their best, and more power to them. But I think we can raise the bar and really think more strategically about our employer brand content.
Well, we can, and I think it's a scary balance too, though, right? Because I think a lot of organizations have historically wanted to control the message. We always want to control the message as much as we can, whether we're marketing our products or services to sell and or to sell to potential candidates that are going to help us make more products and services to sell, right? Companies are scary. It's a scary place to be to be how authentic, transparent are you? But I'll tell you another thing too is that I think another problem with the sugarcoating is that, and I think most professionals, I would have to believe this, know that work is sometimes extremely hectic and stressful and chaotic, and there's deadlines and there's pressure, and there can be fun and there can be collaborative teamwork and all that stuff, but work is work too, right?
Right.
So if
they pay you to be there for a reason. There's a reason they have to pay you to be there, right?
Exactly. I mean, we're getting stuff done, but that's okay, right? Because again, if I'm doing the things that I do like and love to do on a regular basis, and I'm getting paid for it, then I will work hard, and it's going to work out to be. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to kind of solidify as we're winding down the last 5 or 6 minutes of this part of the discussion. Is where then would you recommend that companies start to inspire employees to tell these, hopefully mostly positive workplace culture stories? How would we aggregate those? What do we do? What would you recommend to the leadership team how to empower employees to tell stories?
Yeah, I think a lot of people really feel positively about their company, and they don't necessarily think to share it, or it doesn't necessarily occur to them to share it. And I think the one thing that I'm most proud of so far working with TripAdvisor for the last several months now is that we've actually given our employees a place to go and actually tell those stories and share them. we created, for the first time that I'm aware of, I'm not aware of any other careers presence or employer brand team or what you want to call it, recruiting team that has an actual Facebook group. We don't have a Facebook page where the brand is kind of broadcasting out to potential employees. We've actually created a group on Facebook. It's a closed group, so their friends and coworkers on their Facebook can't see the stuff that's being shared. They can see that they're a member of Go TripAdvisor, and again, it's intentionally somewhat nebulous as to what that means. It may mean that they like travel, who knows. But we've actually created a group, and what I love about this, it's now up to, I think, 1,300 plus members altogether in this group, and we have employees of TripAdvisor, and we have candidates of TripAdvisor, and just fans of TripAdvisor, people from all around the company, all levels, all locations, are talking to prospects, and prospects are talking to recruiters, and hiring managers are talking to, people around the world. It's really, really interesting, and I'm not a big fan of, the whole talent community concept, but this is the closest thing, honestly, that I have seen to it. We've given a place where employees can go and share their information. They're sharing pictures of Taco Tuesday lunch, and I have pictures that I'll share out during the Twitter portion, but the type of content that is being shared here is really, really interesting. And I think I didn't come up with this quote, but I recently read it, and I apologize for not remembering who said it, but the difference between an audience and a community is which way the chairs are facing. So if you're on stage and you're speaking at a conference and all the chairs are facing you, this is kind of this one-way communication. And that's kind of what a Facebook page is like. But this Facebook group is amazing because all the chairs are kind of in a big circle and facing each other. And therefore, we are having all these discussions, and things are really transparent, and they're really real, and candidates are asking questions, and product managers are chiming in to answer, and people from Marcom and people from APAC and all around are all coming together. And it's not being filtered. It's not being monitored. It's not sanitized and scrubbed. And, it's all really real discussion, and it's amazing. I highly, highly recommend anyone on this call, I'll let you in, take a look, see what's happening, copy it, model your own company after it, your own Facebook group. I'm happy to kind of share it, but it's a really cool thing. So I think maybe just creating a venue where employees can go to share the stuff that they love about their job will give them more of an impetus and a reminder to actually go out and share it. So that's one thing that I'm, excited to share with everybody on this call. I haven't blogged about it or really talked about it that much. So happy to share this cool idea that's actually working, and it was a little risky and a little scary. So.
Yeah, but that's again, that just lines up nicely with what we were talking about. I mean, that's a company opening themselves up to potentially, things that are really out of their control. But if it's paying off in dividends because candidates are getting questions answered and individuals are kind of meeting other potential people that may be their coworkers at some point, possibly, and even if they don't get hired, this is the whole beauty of having a better experience and providing at least the basic staples of acknowledgement and closure, right? For anytime you're interested in the company, is that I may still come back and buy stuff and use your service and or talk about it positively online, whether you hired me or not. We know that. The data's there. We know that's the case, so that's huge. And that, by the way, that story falls in line nicely with other of the Candidate Experience Awards winner stories as well. And by the way, it's just TripAdvisor. Have they ever applied to go through the candies?
Not yet. It's on our radar. We actually just missed the deadline this year. I'm afraid to say we didn't make it this year, but it's definitely on the radar. And we've been talking about it, and it's definitely going to happen next year. I'm confident.
Well, awesome. You definitely should do that next show. It's exciting. Well, Stacey, listen, we're down to the last minute.
Uh-oh.
And
all right. Well,
no. This is all good. It's been great discussion. Thank you so much again. And just real quick, in 20 seconds, tell us all how to get 40,000 first-level connections on LinkedIn. How do we do that?
Treat every candidate like a person. Offer to stay in touch. Offer to help others. Don't just always take. Pay it forward, all that good stuff. Whatever you put out into the universe will come back to you tenfold. That's why I named my company Tenfold. I believe it, I practice it, and I encourage it. So I don't know. Not that everyone needs 40,000 connections on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. You nailed it, Stacey. Stacey, thanks again for your time. It was a great show today. and look forward to doing the Twitter chat. And speaking of your analogy, real quick, of all the chairs facing one another, that's our Talent Culture T-Chat community as well. So that's good news. All right, we'll see you on the Twitter chat. All right.
Thanks for having me.